to play. We've got stories for your day. From Onefinity, it's clear to see the finest CNC. It's the Cutting Edge Podcast. Let's take a flight.
Welcome. Bienvenidos, aloha, and konnichiwa. Those aren't all welcome, but welcome to the Cutting Edge Podcast presented by Onefinity CNC. I'm Morgan Hopp, and
I'm Stone.
we're your
That's it.
hosts, and we're thrilled to have you here with us today. Today, we are talking about the Infinite Possibilities Program. And for those of you who don't know what that is, Stone's going to explain to you.
Put me on the spot then.
There you go.
The Infinite Possibilities Program. That sounds pretty self-explanatory. But no, the Infinite Possibilities Program is a way that we here at Onefinity can take your used items and allow you to return them in exchange for a little bit of money in that item. We will send you an upgraded, larger item. Larger in most cases, depending on what you order. But you can basically take your CNC and make it grow to fit your needs as needed.
Right. So the cool thing about the Infinite Possibilities Program is that one, it is it's unique to Onefinity. I'm not aware of any other CNC brand that has this type of program or even could have this type of program because they are not you know what? I'm not going to talk about other brands and other machines. I'm going to talk about us. What's unique about us is that our CNC machines are modular and they can easily be changed. You can swap out parts without having to basically, have like an extensive engineering knowledge or have to scrap the whole machine. You can swap out certain parts and upgrade the size of your machine, or you can change the controller or lots of the components very easily. And that's just not something that at least that I'm aware of, that other machines are capable of. So the Infinite Possibilities Program allows you to take what you have, and as we release new things, bigger, uh, redesigned or improved versions of what you have, you can send us back what you got, and we will split the difference. We'll send the new thing, and you can upgrade as you go, as your needs change.
Yeah. So I think of it like as a car. If you got a car at a 2021 or whatever, and then 2022 they come out and they release a new body style, um, that would be sort of similar to upgrading. I know it's not exactly the same. And maybe this isn't the best analogy, but that would be the equivalent of upgrading like your rails. You're changing the look of the machine, the physical appearance of the machine, the mechanicals of the machine. But then say you wanted to upgrade your controller, that's more like swapping out the engine on a car where you're swapping out the drivetrain, what's making the thing go. So there's different upgrades, like Morgan said, for electronics, for the mechanical rails. Um, you can upgrade any of the three axes, X, Y, and Z now with this latest upgrade. And you also have the ability to upgrade your laser if you want to upgrade that. But we'll get into that more later. So,
Right. So the reason that we want to focus on this today is because yesterday we announced a new upgrade that is available. So you've always been able to upgrade your, so say you had a woodworker with a 32 by 32 cutting area. You could change out just one rail, just the X rail. 8 bolts takes about 10 minutes, and expand your machine from 32 by 32 to 32 by 48. And so people love that. A lot of people have taken advantage of that upgraded option. And those same people who have done that have asked for, they're like, hey, can we do a Y rail upgrade? So I can take my 32 Y axis and make it a 48-inch Y axis. And so that's what we just launched yesterday. And we're super excited about it. So, I mean, you can go from you technically you can go from a 32 by 32 to a 48 by 48. Um, doing that, both upgrades separately would cost almost as much as a brand new machine. So we don't expect a whole lot of people to do that. But the Journeyman, a lot of people have already upgraded their X rails to a 48-inch X rail, and so now all they need to make it a full 4x4 machine is just the two Y rails. So
Mhm.
that's what we got now.
Yeah, and like you kind of mentioned, we don't expect people to go in and upgrade all three rails at once. But
May as
when
well
the
just buy a new machine.
yeah, I mean, at that point, you're basically $100 off of buying a new machine. But that's not to say they both don't have their place, because when we released the X Rail upgrade, that was 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, so that was the only way to get a bigger machine at the time. And obviously, over time, our machines have gotten bigger and beefier seems to be the word that people like to use the most. Um, but as they've gotten bigger, like over time, we've released more and more upgrades. So it's not just a you buy a machine, you have it for a year, and you upgrade everything. There's constantly upgrades coming out periodically. So it's not just a spend a bunch of money in one lump and then do it again in a year. It's spend a little bit over time and your CNC stays up to date and relevant. So you're not getting left behind. So that's the biggest, I think, advantage of the program, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, and if you've been perfectly happy with your machine, if you bought one early on, let's just say you have like an original X35 woodworker,
Hmm.
um, and it has been meeting your needs for this whole time, and you don't see a need to upgrade, great, awesome. But we found that a lot of people who have CNCs eventually they get to a point where they find a need for more capacity or bigger, beefier rails for because they're cutting either faster or just more aggressively in general. And so that option is there for them. But if what you got works for you, awesome. Like I talked to Daniel Dunlap a couple months ago. He was telling me that like he has just like an X35 woodworker that he got real early on, has
Hmm.
never once even updated the firmware, and he said, I just use it, works great." It hasn't done anything.
Man, I wonder what firmware he's on, because he was one of the real early adopters of it. So
Yeah, I
he's
mean
probably
it's
running like
early, it's old.
whatever it came with, which is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
but that's
Don't do
good.
that.
I mean, that's good to know that a machine that even after many iterations and firmware updates, his is still kicking and
Oh
doing a
yeah.
good job. That's good to hear.
Hmm. And I know there are a lot of people I've talked to over the last couple of years that they bought in, the first couple hundred machines. And um, another good example is Jeremy Rao, who, if you don't know Jeremy at West Kentucky Woodworks, he's an awesome dude, but he has
Is that
now
that
up.
dude that's like super ripped?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Jeremy is,
he's
that's,
intimidating.
that's Jeremy. Um, and he does some stuff for Harvey too.
Mhm.
But Jeremy bought his machine. He was like one of the first 100 machines. And over the past 4 years, he did the X Rail upgrade. He's done the Elite upgrade kit. And then he actually was one of the people who did all of the testing for me. There were a couple people I had secretly testing things, but he got the Y Rail upgrade a couple months ago. So he's been using that and making sure everything was smooth for us. Um, but he's the perfect example to show that you can literally start from the flagship Woodworker X35 machine that we came out with when we launched, and he has now the biggest top of the line model. And it was all done through upgrades. So
Yeah,
um, it's
that's
just cool
crazy.
to see how you can go from, I say bottom of the barrel for us, but um, a really good hobby
The
CNC
bottom of the
machine.
barrel Onefinity is the cream of the crop, in generalities.
There you go. But yeah, he went from our lowest model to our highest model, all with, like at this point, his entire machine has been replaced. But
Yeah.
because he did it through the upgrades, it was a little bit at a time and it wasn't a huge lump sum to do that. So,
Yeah. You can do it little by little. Like if you have like I've thought about we've looked at moving houses. But I was like, we can just put additions on this house and we can just make this our castle. So you can do it bit by bit. You
Yeah.
don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to scrap the whole thing. Just change and add things as you go.
Yeah.
Which
So
actually, that's I thought about it, like that's kind of crazy, but that's actually what all of my machines are. Like I all of my machines are pieced together from first runs of stuff or even prior to first runs of stuff. And so
you may
I've
not
got
be the
kind of
best example
Frankenstein
because
set
you've
up.
got the Frankenstein machines.
Yeah. But every time I make a change, everything works just fine. Works
Yeah,
great.
and I mean that really is the beauty of it. Like everything that's modular uses the same interlocking system, uses the same bolt patterns. So it really is just take the bolts out, pull the rail off, and put the new one on and bolt it back in place. So
I will say that the and I might have told this on a prior episode, but when the Beefy Z came out, the Z20 Z slider came out, I installed it very easy, 4 bolts, 1 wire. Um, and it just I don't know why it just didn't occur to me that I had to change the machine settings. It's so I started trying to run a toolpath, and I had this big old 3/4 inch diameter straight bit installed. And so the thing just starts flying and it just buries into the wasteboard and it ripped the Z slider completely out of the gantry block, fully pulled it off, and it was disastrous. But I was able to just retap the holes just slightly bigger and put new screws in, and it has been perfect ever since. So you can seriously abuse these machines. I don't recommend that. Please don't. But you can, and they will still continue to work just fine.
I think that's another beautiful thing about Onefinity. And I went up to Tools Today a few weeks ago, like we talked about on our last episode. And when I was up there, one of the things that Matt was really impressed by was the fact that the entire machine is completely made of metal. Whether
Mhm.
it is steel or aluminum, everything is metal, with the exception of like the drag chains and a few injection molded parts. Um, all of the mechanical pieces and the larger components are either steel or aluminum, and the gantry blocks being a solid aluminum block that's been milled, it allows you to do things like tap out a hole if you need to or something like that. But I would say that's a very extreme case. You're the only person I know that's ever done that. So
Yeah. Well, because again, remember, you got to remember, I'm not that smart. So um, I make terrible mistakes all the time because of my bad brain. But uh, but my machines have somehow survived my stupidity, and it's a miracle that the shop hasn't burned down yet.
Morgan, you don't give yourself enough credit.
I think people give me too much credit.
Um,
But anyway, so
So
that is
let's
I
talk
feel like
about
we
the
got way
actual
off in the weeds on
upgrade.
that. What's up?
I feel like we got off a little bit, but it was okay.
That's
Let's
fair.
talk about the actual upgrades though. So
Yeah.
just to kind of give you an idea of the differences. Um, so this newest upgrade that we released yesterday at the time of recording this, I guess this won't go up till tomorrow probably.
Yeah.
But we on October the 2nd, we released the Foreman rail upgrade for the Y and B axis for the Elite machine, or just the Y rail upgrade for the Pro and Original machines. But here's what you get with those upgrades. So obviously, you're going from a 35 millimeter tube up to a 50 millimeter tube. So you have a larger diameter steel tube that acts as your rail that the linear bearings are sliding on. So that's an increased rigidity right there. You're also getting an upgraded. You're going from a 1610 to a 1616 ball screw. So you are going 6 millimeters further per rotation. So you're gaining about I'm trying to think the math here. It's like a 60% increase in speed, and you
which is crazy.
also that is crazy. 60% increase in speed abilities just because of the pitch of the ball screw. And on the Elite machine, the motors will actually stay the same. They will still use the um, closed loop 1.2 Newton meter stepper motor. And all you'll do is you literally just have to take the little green terminal blocks out of the motor on your old machine, remove the 4 bolts, and you will just slide it back onto the same place on that new rail. And then, like I said, you just plug the green terminal blocks back in, put your bolts in place, and you're ready to go. So, swapping a motor, you're pulling the bolts from the X rail off, unbolting the Y rail. So in total, you're looking at let's just make it an easy round number. I said that it's 36 bolts. So 36 total bolts for the Elite Series to completely remove your X rail, pull the Y rails off, change your motors, all of that 36 bolts. And you have gone from a 32 by 48 to a 48 by 48. So you're increasing your size by 50% as well. So 60% increase in speed, 50% increase in cutting area. That's huge. Um,
Is that
on
50%?
so yeah, so if you think about it, all of our rails come in increments of 16 inches. It goes from 16-inch with the machinist, 32 with the woodworker, and then Journeyman and Foreman are 48-inch rails.
Right.
So when you go from a 32 by 48 to a 48 by 48, you're adding a 16 by 48 inch
Gotcha.
area. So that's half of what you already had. So you have now 150% of what you had before.
Gotcha. All right.
So that's the cutting area. And then we already went over the ball screw. You're getting 60% more speed going from 16 to 10. And on the Pro Series, you actually don't reuse the motors. You actually get a little bit larger motor with it's the same NEMA 23, but it is a higher torque motor. So you get a little bit more power to help drive that ball screw, give you nice, clean, smooth cuts. So those come pre-installed. You don't have to swap any of those. So that's just 32 bolts to remove the rails from the table and remove the X and then just put everything back in place. So
Which takes very little time. I've seen Stone put a machine together from start to finish in just an astounding amount of time. Um, about how long it takes for me to sneeze,
I don't know about that.
Stone can assemble an entire CNC machine. It's crazy.
I've got a lot of practice. I
Yeah,
probably
I
have
mean, yeah,
more practice than anybody except for the guys that are actually building them. Um,
yeah.
but it really is that simple. I like to tell this story. The first time I saw one, I had never seen one in person, a Onefinity that is. The first Onefinity that I got my hands on, um, it was to make the assembly video. And at the time, instructions didn't exist, and it was kind of just like put it together. And it's that simple that just looking at it, you can figure it out in an hour, even if you have absolutely no experience with it. So um,
We should have like IKEA style manuals that have no words at all. They're just little pictures of little
that would
cartoon
be
stick figure people.
that would be a nightmare.
But I bet you could do it for real.
No, there's no way.
W
I mean, could I do it? Yes. Would it be helpful to anyone at all?
but
No.
you did it without a manual at all. So, like, not only did you not have any words on a page, you didn't even have little pictures.
That's
You had
fair,
nothing.
but not
So
everyone thinks the same way too. So you got to think about that.
that's true. I think a lot
So
worse than most. Um, that probably wouldn't work for me, but who's to say, you know?
you never know.
So what else
Anyways,
we got in the infinite possibilities program? So that was
so
the
that was the Foreman Y rail upgrades. They're available for the Elite and the Pro or Original. So the Elite is one SKU, the Pro and the Original are the same exact SKU. They are just marked as one product. So the original Pro style one works for non-elite machines. The elite works with the elite, obviously. Um, I guess the next logical one would be the X-Rail upgrade. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of out of order because it really makes sense
That's
for
the
you to.
first logical one, really.
Yes. So there's you technically could upgrade your Y rails first if you wanted to, but there are very limited reasons why you would ever want to do that. One, because you're only getting one of those rails and they are the same mechanical rail, you, well, with the exception of the gantry block, you cannot place the X rail where the Y rails go or vice versa because the gantry block is keyed differently on top. But the X rail upgrade is half the cost because it's half as many rails.
Right. You would be
With
getting the same capacity, just flip 90 degrees, but
exactly.
one is only requires one rail, the other would require two. It would be silly to do that.
Yes. So you can go from a 32 to a 32 by 32 to a 32 by 48 with the X Rail Journeyman Rail upgrade for the Elite or the Pro. Um, when we released that, it came out and it still had the curly cable like we had on the original series. And when we released the Pro series last November, we changed that curly cable over to a drag chain, so now you just have straight cables going through your drag chain, and you can put your router or spindle cable through there as well. Um, Again, they are available for the Elite or the Pro and Original series. Um, and it's very, very obviously separated out on the IPP page if you go to order that. You get the same 1616 ball screw, same 50 millimeter tubes, and the same high torque stepper motor. On the non elite and the elite, same thing. You just have a your standard closed loop stepper motor that comes with the elite series that's just swapped over. So,
Um, so that I mean that pretty much covers all of the rail upgrades, both elite and non-elite. Um, so I mean, yes,
it doesn't
you can
actually.
upgrade all both X and Y axes um, through the Infinite Possibilities program, and then the Z axis. The we've had this for it's coming up on 2 years now, isn't it?
Yeah, it was 2 years that we released the Beefy Z, the Z20.
The Z20. We call it the Beefy Z, kind of in house, and not like it's secret. We say it in videos and stuff, but the official name is Z20. That is
Yes.
the Z20 Z slider. It's just a bigger Z slider. Moves faster. It's more rigid than
So
the
it
original one. There's nothing wrong with the original one. The bigger one is just awesome if you want to use a spindle or just pretty much just eliminate chatter almost completely. So
yeah, so it moved from the Z16, which was the original one. Um, and I'll give you a little insight here. The numbers mean something. So Z16 was because it was a 16 millimeter. The uh, the guide rods, they're solid steel. On the Z16, they are 16 millimeters thick. On the Z20, they are 20 millimeters thick. Aside from that, you have the back plates on the slider are about twice as thick. They went from about a quarter inch to almost half an inch. So you have a lot more rigidity and stability there. So you don't get the flex that you would have seen on the previous one. You also have a lot more material around the bearings on the mount. So you have just a sturdier hold for your spindle. You have obviously larger bearings for those larger rods. And then you also have an upgraded ball screw. You go from a 16 or a 10-4 ball screw to a 16-10 ball screw. So um, I want to say it's like 30% faster, something like that.
yeah,
Um,
it's or I think it's actually closer to like 40.
it may be 40. It's
You know
been a
what?
while.
Just to be safe, let's say 30. But
30 to 40% faster, but
there
it's
you go.
one of those two. And you also get the same high torque stepper motor that you would get on the Foreman rail upgrades. So any of the 4-foot rails would have that same motor as the high torque motor that's on the Z20.
And that's another one of those things that if you bought early on, or if you even if you bought recently, but you got the is the no the
The original series is the only one that doesn't come with it now.
yeah,
The Pro
so
and Elite both come pre-equipped with it.
right. So if you did buy a long time ago and you want to, you can upgrade from the Z16 to the Z20.
Mhm.
That's been out for about 2 years now and
Yep.
have not heard a single complaint about it.
No,
Um,
it's just a nice upgrade, and you also get, I wanna say it's about an inch, maybe inch and a half of extra travel. So,
and you've got more mounting options as well. Like
mhm.
there's a
You have 4 mounting positions instead of 3.
right, which is nice. It depending on what kind of stuff that you work on. If you if there's like a specific thing that's like it's just like real thick, you can mount it as high as it goes. Or if you work with a lot of thin material, mount it real low. More options. More
Well,
options is always
the
good.
other nice thing about the Onefinity system, again, is it is so easy to adjust. Um, Now if you're setting up for, milling and things like that where you have to have super tight tolerances, you're probably gonna tram your Z slider and you're probably never gonna move it. But if you are someone who is doing a lot of different materials with different thicknesses, it's super easy to adjust. It's 4 bolts. So it's a 1-minute swap to move it to a different position.
I don't know about one, but it's quick. So, I'm talking to Stone here. Stone could probably
You got
do it in his
6
sleep.
bolts if you take the router or spindle out. So
Yeah.
it's pretty quick. Either way, it won't take you long. That's the point.
Yeah. It's very easy. And
Mhm.
then the last thing I think that we have on the Infinite Possibilities program page is we have a laser upgrade option where was it just this last November, or was that also 2 years ago?
That was actually, it wasn't even November, I don't think, because I wanna say
When
that
was that?
happened earlier this year. I don't remember what month, but I wanna say it was maybe like May-ish.
Yeah, okay, so it hasn't been that long, but yeah, so up until then we had 3 options for lasers. We had a 7 watt, a 14 watt, and a 24 watt. Those were the 3 that we had, and then we came out with a 44 watt laser, which is just insanely powerful, and it's awesome, and people were envious about it, and were they're like, "Oh, I just bought the 24 last week, and now you come out with this. That sucks." Well, we do have a upgrade path for that as well. So, uh it's just standardized across the board. If you have a 7 watt, a 14 watt, or a 24 watt, any of those, you can trade that in for a credit toward the 44 watt.
Mhm.
I wouldn't do that. I mean, you can, but I would just keep them both. Like if you have a 7 watt or a whatever you have, um, I would, and you want the 44 watt, just get them both. Because they're both have have they're both good at certain things, like different
Mhm.
things. They both have their great qualities for, like the lower wattage stuff is awesome for engraving and like really fine detailed stuff. And then the 44 watt is amazing for cutting
Yeah.
thicker stuff and doing it fast. So just keep both. But that is an option if you only want to have one laser laying around.
I will say, yeah, so it is nice to have the option, like you said, if you only have, um
It's not like they take up a bunch of room or anything.
they don't take up a lot of room, but, like, if you're wanting to upgrade and you need the money for it, sure. I will say, though, now that JTech has kind of redone, I say kind of, they've redone completely the 14 watt and the 7 watt. So they will both now run off of that same SI board, safety interface board, that the 44 and the 24 watt use.
Yeah.
So you can literally just unplug the one connection coming off of the laser itself and lift it off of the magnetic mount and swap them out in a matter of seconds. So that does make it really easy if you have a lot of laser work you're doing, but you have different cutting and engraving, things like that. So you can use the different lasers without having to change the entire system over. So that
Yeah.
is really convenient.
Well, I think we have just just about I think we covered everything that's part of the Infinite Possibilities program, and that's as of the airing of this episode, that's all we have right now. But as we continue to grow and come out with new stuff, there will be new stuff that you can upgrade to later on. So this episode may not age super well a few years from now, but there's going to be more stuff later on. I'll go
Yeah,
ahead and say that.
we'll just come back and add on to it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's the cool thing about Onefinity. We're always doing something new. We're trying to make our products better for you guys, and we're trying to make it so that it's as easy to access those products as possible without having to jump through a bunch of hoops and dole out a whole lot of money. So,
You know, what I just thought about is like, we talk about you can upgrade your machine without having to not scrap, not like somebody would just throw it away, but people would, sell it, try to put it online and sell it. Can you imagine having to package and like box up a whole CNC machine that like doesn't break apart the way that ours does? One that's like confined to a factory. I mean, the box would be just enormous.
you'd have to be a crate on a pallet for sure.
Right. So you would have to palletize it. And then are you really making any money by having to pay to palletize something and and freight ship it? Like
I know
you're
one guy
basically
who
breaking even just to get the thing out of your
I
shop.
know I'm not gonna name names, but I know one individual. Um, he had a Onefinity. He was one of the I think he was like order like 150 or something like that. He was real early on. He had it for about 2 years and learned CNC, and then he ended up buying a larger format, more industrial machine that was a 4 by 4 and he had it for about a year, maybe a little longer than a year, and he just sold it, and he had to do exactly that, and he ended up driving it like 12 hours or something like that, crazy, and delivered it. So that was the way he could do it without losing money. So, um,
But
but
still,
since then
gas
he has
just
he has
driving
come
to
back,
yeah,
and you know what? He's using the exact same CNC that he started with. So he got another one of the original woodworkers. So,
sounds like a whole lot of legwork for just to land right back where you were.
but that's to tell you people, don't waste your time. Just stick with it and upgrade this one.
Buddy, if that isn't a value proposition, I don't know what is.
I feel like it's a little, I'm a little biased, but
Well, sure, we both are. And
at
full
the same
disclosure,
time, I promise I won't lie to you guys.
yeah,
That
full
still doesn't
disclosure,
really
Stone
help.
and I both work for Onefinity, and we
What was the giveaway?
are Onefinity users, and we've only ever owned a Onefinity. So yes,
That's not
we are
true.
biased.
I told people for a long time I'd never had a CNC, but I thought about it and I did. I had a Sane Smart CNC that
Really?
came from Amazon. Yes.
When?
This was way before I worked for Onefinity, like 2 or 3 years before.
So you just like had a little cheap CNC?
Yeah, but, like, I couldn't cut anything. I could engrave on, like, plywood, but it was using, like, 1 or maybe 2 millimeter end mills. I had no clue what I was doing, and the thing was a piece of garbage. No offense. But,
That's
like,
crazy. I didn't know
at
that.
it was super, super confusing. Um,
Yeah.
but if I touched it now, it would probably be a different story.
Yeah, it
Not
would
trying
make more
to
sense to you now, but
not trying to bash anybody there, but it was not a great experience.
yeah. Well, that's what we aim to do. We want to make the CNC experience as good as possible. So,
Absolutely. So, if you guys have thoughts on how we can make that CNC experience better, we'd love to hear them. Um,
for sure.
in other news, before we wrap things up here, let's talk about what we've got coming up in the world of Onefinity. So, next week on the 10th, we will be heading up to New York for our second time at Maker Camp. Um,
Unbelievably excited for that. It's
yeah,
like my events like that like Maker Camp and Workbench Con. The whole rest of the year, I feel like is just I'm just waiting for the next thing. Like those are the best parts of the year for me are going to events like that. Oh, and we also have Texas Woodworking Festival coming up. And
Yeah, but
that one is super
we'll
fun.
get there in a minute though.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, if you guys, I really want to encourage you, if you haven't been to some sort of maker event, even if it's not Maker Camp or Workbench Con, um, get out to some of these shows and go meet the people that are in the community. Get to see people that you've talked to online and say hi, but like really connect and share stories, share experience. Um, that's the whole thing behind all this. It's yes, we're gonna get together and we're gonna share our knowledge. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna have a good time together, and that really draws you into the community and just makes you feel really welcome. Everybody at these events is always so nice. Um, you definitely won't regret it. That's all I can say.
Yeah. I think the maker community is is a very special one. There's something very unique about the maker community that I don't know. It's just such a supportive atmosphere. The people that you're around, I think there's a bunch of different niches. There's a bunch of different pockets. Like there's people who get together for conferences. They do like cosplay or play Magic or Dungeons and Dragons or video games or something, whatever it is. Um, and those are all little pockets. Those are all little communities unto themselves. I'm sure they're great, but there's just something about the maker community that I think is really special, and I've never experienced anything like it. So I'm I'm humbled and super uh just proud to be a part of this community, and and I'm just glad that this community has embraced Onefinity, and
Thanks,
and
guys.
we can't wait for these events. I I'm happiest when I'm at them.
Yeah, we really do. We love seeing you guys. I hope you guys love seeing us. Um, and no, we're not related. uh, you should tell
Oh,
the people while we're here still. Tell them what we're going to be doing this year at Maker Camp because it's been released on the schedule, but there's not really any specifics about it. And this was your brainchild. So tell them what we're going to be doing over the weekend.
so when we go to these things, we have to demo. I mean, not have to, but yeah, we're there to demo the machine. We want to have a machine out there, and we want to have it running, and so that people can see its capabilities and the quality of work that it can do. So one of the things that our machine does really well is 3D carves. It's just we have a very precise machine, so I thought it would be cool to do a 3D carve of the area of the Catskills that Maker Camp is is hosted at. So I made a 3D model of that area of East Durham. That's where Maker Camp is held, and so we're just going to be doing a 3D topography map of that space, and I also put in there the rivers that and just natural bodies of water that are in that area. And so we're gonna fill those with epoxy, so just to give it some depth and some realism. And and then we'll just engrave and probably do a multicolor epoxy inlay of the Maker Camp logo in the place where on the carve in the place that it's located. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be cool, but it's gonna be a big old thing where we're gonna have a 4x4 machine out there, so it's gonna be a big gigantic carving that's probably going to take all weekend to do. But that's the idea is that we want to we want to have a big impressive thing that people can watch take shape over the course of a couple days.
Yeah. I know it's not always fun to, I mean, I think it's pretty fun, but it's not always fun to sit and watch a CNC just cut a bunch of circles for a take and make kind of item.
Yeah.
So we'll still have, our usual little goodies and things. Um, but the big thing is going to be that, just because it really allows you to see an entire transformation over the course of 3 days. And it, like Morgan said, is going to take probably that whole time just because it is massive. Um,
But if you've never seen I love watching these things. If you've never seen a CNC doing a 3D topography carve, I could just sit there and stare at it.
mhm.
It's mesmerizing. It's so cool to watch. So anybody that comes by, I'm sure is just gonna sit there and stare at it for a few minutes. It's fun to watch.
And we're in our own tent this year, all by ourselves. So um, be sure to come out, hang around with us. There won't be um, other booths crowding around us this year. So we'll have a lot more room for you guys to get in there and see it from all angles. We're also going to have an hour blocked off. Check out the schedule. We have an hour blocked off each day for Q&A. So we can, depending on how loud it is in there, we'll either leave the machine running or we'll pause it for an hour and we will sit and literally we're just going to take any questions that you guys have, so that you can get in-person experience from Morgan and myself, and just ask questions. I know there's a lot of Onefinity users that will be there. There's a lot of other users that are using different CNCs that will be there. So we'll just be there to answer questions about CNCs in general, about Onefinity specifically, and just have a good time with you guys. So we're really looking forward to it.
And if there's no questions, we'll have an acoustic guitar there. We'll just sing some songs, a little kumbaya time. It'll be great.
Yep. Oh, I need to make us a playlist for the tent. That's what I need to do.
I can't. I forgot about that they are giving us our own tent this year.
Yeah.
You think it's
So
because of the incident last year?
no,
Okay.
someone dropped out that was also going to be in the tent. That was also sponsoring that tent. It was supposed to be the CNC tent, and it was sponsored by another CNC company that cannot make it because they are double booked. So
Mhm.
we benefited from that.
When I said incident, I was just making that up to see what you would say.
I was just assuming you were talking
There was
about the
no
river.
incident last year.
I just assumed you meant the river under the table.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, the incident was just a natural disaster. It rained so bad there was ankle deep water just flowing under our machine in the tent. It was crazy. But we're supposed to have awesome weather this year, so
Yep. It's going to be a good time.
it's doing great.
Don't miss it. Catch us at the Blackthorn next week for Maker Camp. And I
I
think
think
that's
that'll
it.
do it for today.
Yeah. All right, guys. I hope y'all have a great week. We hope to see you at Maker Camp. And if not, we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. Thanks for listening. Y'all be good.
Bye.
Bye.
Gather around, it's time to play. We've got stories for your day. From Onefinity, it's clear to see the finest CNC. It's the cutting edge podcast. Let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite. From wood to steel, we peel and reveal the art of making done just right. Tips and tricks that elevate, craftsmanship that's first rate. Join the fun, we've just begun, the cutting edge awaits. On this journey side by side, hear the stories far and wide. From dream to deed with utmost speed, where passion takes its stride. It's the cutting edge podcast, let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite. From wood to steel, we peel and reveal the art of making done just right. It's the cutting edge podcast, let's take a flight with designs and tools that ignite. From wood to steel, we peel and reveal the art of making done just right.